Oh no, you've drawn a line. Get in the bin. So why did you start a fitness account?
It's really important to take a step back and look at how far you've come. What would you say was the biggest challenge when you started making your account?
Seems obvious, but sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in that illusion. And that was me before. Absolutely not. No.
It's really, really important. It's really, really good. It's true.
Because I think a lot less about what could go wrong and I see actually what could go right.
And just gauging a following was just a bonus. It really plays on your mind, except no one really tells you this.
It's always coming back to the reason why you start. So if you had one piece of advice for someone who wanted to make a fitness account, gathering all we've said, what would you say and why?
I hope you have a beautiful sleep, you lovely little chickens. Goodbye.
Please tell me they don't say chickens. I'm sorry, but if I think of a chicken, I just laugh. I don't think meditation and peace.
Really sounded like them. I was really proud of that.
You did very well in sounding completely and utterly creepy. No one needs to know.
Listen to this.
Oh no! You've drawn a line. Get in the bin. Get in the bin. Disgusting.
Disgusting. We all just won. We all won. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. We are back with another podcast.
And today we're going to be talking about making a fitness account. What it means to make a fitness account, the journey of making a fitness account,
and how we feel now about having a fitness account, and any advice we could give to anybody who's interested in making their own.
So let's get into it. So making a fitness account usually comes with the concept of being a fitness influencer. Separate the terms, what it actually means to be a fitness influencer. We thought we'd look up the actual definition for you guys. Yeah. So we Googled this.
So according to Google, a fitness influencer is a fitness enthusiast known and trusted by others in the fitness community and consumers on social media.
So essentially, you're somebody that represents fitness. You're somebody that is a symbol to other people online.
I suppose as well, you're trusted by others online and you're known for a particular realm within that fitness community, usually.
Yeah.
And you have, I suppose the trust you have allows you to be of influence to people.
Yeah, which is great. And I think a big misconception, usually you're an influencer depending on the amount of followers you have. This is one of the biggest things we're going to be talking about because I think it's something that is so important that we do not determine our value based on the amount of followers we have.
So much of your career as a fitness influencer is based upon the influence you have, and that does come from the following that you obtain.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just really important to get your head around that. Don't worry about making an account if you're worried about the amount of followers you're going to have. Focus on what you're going to post, not who's going to follow you, because you'll attract the right people as you keep going.
Absolutely. It's all about your intentions, how you approach it, and how you stay true to that.
Yeah.
So why did you start a fitness account?
I think a big reason was because I was so passionate about fitness and I loved going to the gym. I didn't have the most knowledge and I hadn't made tons of progress at this point, but I just really liked the idea of being able to share what I love with people who like the same. And it's really daunting. When I made a fitness account, I was thinking about it for so long. I procrastinated for weeks and weeks because I was so scared about judgment, and this was when I was at school. So the thought of people from my school finding it and making fun of me was terrifying. So I kept putting it off, but eventually I just bit the bullet and just did it, and I'm really glad I did. I love it to this day. And it's so nice to watch you transform over time with a big group of people watching your story as well.
So you were saying about how you can see your progress with that as well, which is really important.
Yeah, it's just nice over time. Sometimes you get really caught up in your head and you don't think you've made as much progress if you have, especially if you suddenly get a bit of body dysmorphia or there's a certain weight and you just can't seem to hit it.
Yeah.
It's really important to take a step back and look at how far you've come. Yes, you can do that with progress pictures and videos. And essentially that's what it is, just on a platform where other people can look at your experience with you. And that's why I really like it. It keeps me accountable.
Yeah.
It makes me keep going sometimes because I feel like I have other people watching me. So I need to...
You have to deliver, right?
I need to deliver to the audience. Yeah. So I really do recommend making a fitness account. I think it's great. If you're unsure, just go for it. If you hate it, delete it.
I really appreciate that. Your reasoning for starting, I think, was very strong and solidified, and that's been kept consistent throughout your journey with posting content on your account. It's been great to see. It's been very inspiring to me, and you were a big reason at the time of when I started my own fitness account.
I remember you.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like forever ago now. And it was something I put off for a long time out of fear of, I suppose, judgment, or fear of how I would then see myself as a result of it. Fear of failing to meet expectations deemed on what I felt they were.
Yeah.
But that has changed over time. The more I've kept consistent with it, the more I have redefined the message and the reasoning for having an account. That's become even more prominent now while we're filming this podcast, while we're PTs, we're advertising ourselves, we're showcasing our work.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That is something I did actually forget to touch on, was you're doing it, or at least when I started, it was to keep me motivated, it was to keep me going, and it still is. But as you build that following, you can start to use it to your advantage when it comes to things like marketing. And as PTs, as people who are starting this podcast, you can use your following to your advantage. You can branch off into other areas, and you've got that support from mutuals who you know are going to support you because they're like-minded, they're into the same things as you.
Absolutely. Well, the key is in the name. It's social media. It's a social platform. It's for you to connect with others. There is something in connectivity that does keep you accountable, of course. So it's really special to be able to have a platform that you share with others who do really similar things and therefore can appreciate the journey you're on.
Yeah. They can relate, you form a community. That's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so we've highlighted a lot of the benefits of making an Instagram account or a social media account.
Yeah.
What would you say was the biggest challenge when you started making your account?
So I did touch on this somewhat when I'm remembering the start of my journey of making an account and growing that online following. And that was very much down to judgment. So the fear of how I would come across, because once you post something, it's sort of there indefinitely, and there's no real way of changing that. So that's one way of seeing it. However, if you see that as a moment in time and that does not define your entire being, which seems obvious, but sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in that illusion. And that was me before starting my social media account. I put it off for a long time. I'd been receiving many compliments from many people and the advice that you should definitely post some of this stuff. It's really cool and inspiring to see. So I'm not quite sure what the turning point was. I had good support behind me. I had enough self-esteem, I think, at that point to really take on what I saw was a challenge to make that social media account. And it's so strange me talking about it now because it's completely not something that even crosses my mind anymore. I'm just very comfortable with the fact that the post is what it is. You'll always find something that you don't like in a post.
You're always your own worst critic, right?
Exactly. I'm very self-critical. But the fact that I'm aware almost gives me the freedom to just accept that, and I become more okay with that and less critical, in fact, because I'm used to seeing things that I don't necessarily like. But at least there's 100 things that I do like, and that's worth putting out there. That's worth receiving feedback from sometimes, say if it's a form video or if it's a artistic editing video. You become more free with your vision as well when you're creating. So I'm someone who uses my platform to create quite artistic videos as much as I'm trying to go for making informative content. And so it loosens the reins on that artistic vision and creation. I find that the videos are far more complex now because I think a lot less about what could go wrong and I see actually what could go right.
Yeah. And that is, I think, the best mindset you can adapt. Touching on what you said, so essentially you said that the biggest challenge was your fear of being judged and what other people would think.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific advice to people who are struggling with the same things you struggled with on how you can overcome that?
I think it's certainly practice. If you want to change something, you have to change the thought that got you there initially. It's a quote of Albert Einstein's, actually. You cannot solve a problem with the same level of thinking that got you there. So if you find it's a problem that you're feeling that you're overworking your mind over things that are outside of your control, for example, what other people are thinking, then you need to change something about that mindset. And it does take you pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone to do that. So making a fitness account, that's very exposing of your body and your practice in the gym. There are a million things people can come at you and say, and that's all the reason to do it. The more you practice it, the more used to it you become, the more used to feedback you become, the more you can choose to interpret that in a very positive way, I think, because you're used to receiving it and you can pick apart the things that you appreciate, the things you just don't care for. And then without even realising, you feel yourself becoming more whole, more self-assured. At least that's been my experience. So
just changing those thoughts, really focusing on that.
Absolutely. I think it's just about being patient and keep showing up with it, like anything, like in the gym. Keep showing up at the gym, keep showing up online. Really notice the things that benefit you and the things that don't. Think about, again, the message, the reason why you're starting. Always come back to that, and I think that will help to centre yourself.
That's really, really important. That's really, really good. That's true.
So with regards to your own personal challenges then with starting a fitness account, how would you say you overcame those challenges?
The biggest thing for me was wrapping my head around the numbers. I would be constantly looking at my following and judging against other people who was posting similar content to me, who had a lot more followers. And it started to make me think that what I was doing wasn't worth it. Essentially, I let the figures determine my value, which is something I will always tell people to never do, because it is a mind fuck. It really plays on your mind, and we're so caught up in this toxic and really untrue thought pattern that the followers you have equates to how much of an influencer you are. I think the idea is the amount of influence you gauge is based on the amount of content you produce and what you're producing. That is how you influence people. So that was a big problem for me, and it still is here and there, but I'm not overly bothered anymore. I think the main way I overcame that was just you have to just keep telling yourself the same thing, and you have to keep telling yourself that numbers do not matter. I really invested time into producing good content, so I was focusing on what I was posting rather than who was following me. And I started to like my own content, and then I stopped caring what other people thought about my content because I really liked my own content. So I think beforehand I wasn't really confident in what I was posting, so I was looking for other people's approval to make me feel more confident. The minute I started liking what I was posting and taking the time and the effort, I really liked it, so I didn't really care what other people thought of it, and just gauging a following was just a bonus, I think.
That's a really good shaping of your perspective.
I
think it somewhat stems from comparison, really, when you're talking about the numbers and the figures.
It really does. Comparison is a huge component of social media in general, whether you have an account that you post on or you have an account that you follow other people on. Comparison is practically inevitable. There are measures you can take to reduce the effects of it, because I don't see the benefits from comparison unless it's somewhat inspiring. It only becomes toxic and it makes you more critical of yourself and more insecure. So my advice to you is, if you find yourself comparing yourself to certain people online, block them, remove them, don't follow them. When me and Frankie went to this exhibition a few weeks ago where Stephen Bartlett spoke at, and a few other influencers and CEOs. A big concept they picked up on that I really liked was the idea of a social media diet.
Oh, yes.
And this was something I wrote it down. It was what they're saying is a social media diet is just as important as a nutritional diet, except no one really tells you this. When you come offline, if all you feel is drained or tired or critical and insecure, you're using social media wrong. The idea is you come off of it and you feel inspired. And if you don't, then you shouldn't really be on social media, in my opinion, at all. So you should dedicate time here and there a couple times a month to really cleanse your following, really cleanse what you're doing, and really think about why you're on social media in the first place.
Yeah.
That is something I will leave you with.
Yeah, wise words. And it's certainly true, I think. It's always coming back to the reason why you start. It's filtering out the things that are not helpful.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is there's something about putting yourself in a place where you don't feel comfortable to learn, to grow. But if you're so uncomfortable and you find it's just unproductive, for example, comparing yourself to other people, I think that falls under the category of concerning yourself with what you can't control.
It is.
So yeah.
There are so many beautiful people out there with the best bodies and faces. Whether it's fake or it's natural, you can't control anything but yourself. And rather than trying to change yourself to be like that person, block that person out and focus on the way that you are as it is.
Well, it's always going to be filtered through your own lens. So you're always going to see what you want to see. And more often than not, you're going to see the best parts, the things that make you feel the worst.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think people are aware of. But when you're in that moment, it's far too easy to fall into that pattern of behaviour. It's there in your face all the time. It's hard not to miss. So it's about coming away, always refocusing your attention on the reason why you started and what benefits you, what's going to help you achieve your reason for doing it. I don't think anybody could say, I know what will help me, comparing myself to all these people.
It never will. This goes for being in real life too. This isn't just online. I don't think many people would walk down the road and compare themselves to the girl they walk past. Whereas if you're online, you will. Because the chances are what people look like online is never how they look in real life. I know so many people, this isn't to shame on them, but I know so many people that look so different online than in person, almost unrecognisable. And that shows you that social media is a facade. Do not believe everything you see.
Yeah.
People will post what flatters them.
Absolutely.
And I can speak on that. I do that. I'm not going to post a picture of myself online that I don't like of myself and that might be slightly unflattering. That doesn't mean I'm fake. It just means I'm going to prefer photos where the lighting is good, where the angles are good, where my abs are more visible. It's something people do.
Well, people are choosy about what they choose to showcase. They're trying to communicate something about themselves in that. People are always going to showcase a certain part of themselves depending on what they want you to see. So they're not going to show you all the pieces of that puzzle. That's the thing here. As
much as being fake isn't great, it has no bearing on you, and the only thing you can control in that situation is the way you look at it and the way you respond to it. So obviously there has been some struggles when it comes to starting a social media platform, and you've spoken about the challenges you faced. Do you think those challenges are worth the rewards?
I think they are, but they are subjective and they're based on you as a person. So I can speak for myself and say that I think they very much have been worth it. I can see myself now, who I am now. I can feel inside who I am now, and that's very different to where I started. And I'd say I was feeling far more self-conscious, ironically, before I started the account. I've received so much criticism, and constructive criticism is what I would call it. It's been most beneficial to me because I've put myself out there and I've been open to receiving that, whereas before I think I was far more guarded. So I think it's all about your personal management of it. So I myself, I make content in my own time I'm choosy with that and I'm creative with it. And I try my very best within that to be my most authentic self in a sense. So I'm really showing everything I'm doing during that workout. And then when I post, I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I'll spend it here and there connecting with others, and I'll spend it on making stories. But I don't spend a lot of time looking at other people, because that's something I've learned has been draining to me. And so I'm being very realistic with that. The owners of social media platforms, I believe, don't let their children use it for the very reason
Interesting, that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because it's designed to be addictive. It's designed to be repetitive, and it's hard to break that cycle. So it's always just being mindful and, as I say, managing your time and how you're spending it. And we've repeated this a lot, but always coming back to your reason for starting, making sure that's really grounded. Within managing your time, it's about managing your expectations too. So managing that in the sense of, say, the numbers. If you're constantly looking at the numbers and expecting to see more and you're not getting that, then it can be really disheartening and not helpful, and you can start to question things of what you're doing to the point where you stop doing them.
And I'm pretty sure that's what caused me to feel the way I felt when it came to the figures and the followers. I was so fixated on, I'd open the Instagram app, go straight to my profile and look at my followers. And that's a really toxic habit that I would constantly do.
Yeah.
And it is about expectation, because I'm expecting it to go up. I'm expecting to be all these big influencers.
At the end of the day, you're posting very similar content to other people.
Yeah.
So you think, if that person's doing that and getting this, why can't I?
Naturally.
It's just not about that. There's so many things that factor into it. Everything's filtered. So
yeah, so it's down to the individual to work out whether the challenges and the mental resistance you face is worth sustaining the account. It's down to the person themselves, down to the mindset and the way you look at it and how you use it. I found that was really important when you said how you don't spend much time on social media yourself. I like that, and I think that goes back to the social media diet, because you're limiting your time consumption on social media. As you said, social media is highly addictive. It releases chemicals like dopamine, which is your wanting more hormone. The idea is when you release dopamine, you have this need to keep wanting more and more of that same thing.
Yeah.
So the more you're looking at social media, the more you're not going to get off of it. It's the same as when you scroll on TikTok. You sit there for hours and hours, and it's really hard to break that chemical loop because it's in your brain.
Yeah.
It's not this made up concept. It's real.
Yeah. Well, this is why people don't break their habits, because that habit may not be the best thing for them.
Yeah.
But because it is simply a habit and it is a routine, you fall into feeling comfortable with that.
It's really difficult to get out of that cycle, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that is why limiting your time on social media is really important.
Yeah.
If that means going onto your settings and setting screen time
30 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah, you can set these timers where you can't spend more than a certain amount of time a day on that app. After a while, it will turn it off and you have to click a button to turn it back on. Yes, that's very then easy, but it's to make you think before you go on it.
Yeah.
Things like that really help limit the amount of time you spend on social media.
Yeah, you have to be quite strict with yourself with it, because as we're saying, it's very hard to it's hard to even see it coming. It's hard to see yourself in that pattern.
It really reminds me of this YouTuber that I love. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of her. The Wizard Liz.
Oh, okay.
I love her so much, all her videos. And she talks a lot on mindset and confidence, on a lot of the things I believe in. She's really helped shift my mindset as well. And that was something she reiterated a lot, was how she goes on YouTube, she posts her videos, and then she goes straight off of it. She doesn't spend any time on it. And she has over 3 million followers now.
There you go. I think as well, removing yourself forces you to focus purely on what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's, I find, something that helps me, is I stay purely focused on my content, what I'm trying to release, who I'm trying to learn from.
Yes.
And done.
It's great to scroll a little bit. It's nice. You get a bit of inspiration sometimes. And you think, oh, I could use that sound or that quote.
But I think everybody has to put a cap on it, really. So if you had one piece of advice for someone who wanted to make a fitness account, gathering all we've said, what would you say and why?
I would say just do it. It's cliche, just if you're thinking about it and you can't stop thinking about it and you're constantly having this mental battle of whether you should or shouldn't, if you're that conflicted, write a pros and cons list. Deep down, you probably know what you want. And if you keep thinking about it, get on there and make it. Who cares if you have 5 followers, 100 followers, or 1,000 followers? Just get it. Focus on what you're posting. Make that your priority. Not who's following you, but what you're posting. And the right people will follow you.
Yeah. It's sort of the law of attraction, really, is what that comes down to.
It is. And there's all these tips and tricks on how to gain more followers that you'll hear about and people will post about. That's cool. Look at them. But don't fixate yourself on that. That's not the goal here. The goal is to be able to post and share what you love, not about the amount of people who agree.
At the end of the day, social media is a very prevalent part of our generation. And so it's important, I think, to recognise that and then try and navigate yourself in a way that works for you within it. And that may mean not being in it. There's no need, really, to be part of that. And feelings always change over time. So ultimately, if you're finding that you are curious about the experience of having an account, then don't limit yourself with that because of all the fears that may come with it. If you're scared of everything, then you're very unlikely to do anything.
It's true. It's very easy to fill your mind with what everybody else is thinking and feeling about you. We tend to go into psychic thinking, as they call it, where you think you can predict what everybody else is thinking. In reality, you can't. And even if you can, you can't control it. So fuck it. Just do what makes you happy. At the end of the day, everybody's going to have an opinion and you're never going to be able to please everybody. So simply focus on pleasing yourself. And if that means doing what you love and being able to share what you're passionate about, then you're winning.
If it helps, people are very fickle, I find. So in the sense that people forget very easily what is out there. You get this hype, let's say, over posting something, and then it's sort of forgotten about anyway. So I think it's leaning on making mistakes, maybe, because once you post something, it's there, it's essentially fixed. But it also isn't, because people forget.
People do. People find something new to focus on.
Yeah, and it's not defining of everything about you and what you do. You're always going to make mistakes, but there's a million things right as much as there are a few things wrong.
A huge other thing I really want to say that I think is so important is you need to be able to learn to differentiate yourself to your account. You are not your account.
Yeah.
The value is different. The value of your account and the value of yourself is not one.
No.
And you might think, oh, that's so obvious. So many people forget this, myself included. And you start to think, oh, my content's not doing very well. I'm not getting many likes. I'm not getting much engagement. What I'm doing must be wrong. No. That doesn't have any bearing on you as a person. You do not change anything about what you're doing. Keep showing up. Keep doing your thing. And the rest will fall into place.
Well, what does that say? The fact that we're saying this seems obvious, but we're still drawing attention to it.
Yeah, because it's so easily forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to forget. I'm sure we've forgotten it many a time.
Many times.
But we're still here showing up. And we have each other as well. We've found support with each other. We've found support with others online. So there's always light.
Definitely. If you struggle to constantly tell yourself these things, because it is very difficult and your brain is very overpowering, write them down. Write it down like they're affirmations and tell yourself them.
Yeah, keep a log, keep a track of your behaviour. So things, as we're saying, it can be forgotten. So if you're always monitoring that, then you can really form patterns, and then you can inform your decisions going forwards.
If you're constantly trying to tell yourself, if you're constantly having a battle with your brain about your value being worth more than the amount of followers you have, and your brain is trying to tell you that you're not valuable because you only have 200 followers, and you can't seem to beat your brain at that, write it down. Sit there and write, I am worth more than my account. Keep telling yourself this, and eventually you will start to believe it. It's how affirmations work.
Yeah. I think you always need experience to be able to know and assess how you feel on something.
Yeah.
So it's worth starting an account and assessing how you feel. And that's not really fixed. It's how you feel at that time. And you can kind of choose how you move forward from that, so long as you are assessing it and being very realistic with yourself about it.
Yeah. My next question for you is, do you think when making a fitness account, you need to be a certain type of person, or that there are certain skills you need?
Absolutely not.
No.
You don't need skills. Not at all. And I'm saying that as someone who has skills.
Pause. Water break. To break over.
Oh, Jesus. What was I saying? Yeah, skills. I really don't think you need skills. I think it's about your intentions, and I think you can always learn a craft. Yes, it helps if you have skills. It helps if you have an artistic eye. At least in my experience, I've found that. As somebody who is creative, who comes from a creative learning background as well, my degree was very much within that sphere. So I do feel like those skills were something I was tapping into. Other people will have different skills. So others will have skills in communication and speaking to people and informing people. They'll be good in their practice. They'll be well educated. So it's not necessarily about possessing the skills in the first place. Even if you have them, it's all about how you develop those skills, how you practice those skills. And it's all practice. You're always going to get better no matter what. So again, I think it's to do with your intentions and how you're actioning those intentions.
Okay, so you don't really need any skills to start an account. I do think there are skills that you attain along the way.
Absolutely.
I think a big one for me was confidence. I've never been unconfident, particularly.
Yeah.
But with your account, with anything, when you start to do well at something and you start to believe in it more, your confidence grows. And that's something I've really learned, and that's really helped me, especially because it came from a place of being really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And as you've grown and you've acquired this really, really good outlook on it, I think it's really rewarding. Another skill I do think, other than confidence, is I think you need a ability to have a perspective. To be able to look from somebody else's eye and think, is this informative? Is this entertaining? Everyone's going to have a different opinion, sure, but I think you need to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes so that it's not biased. Because you could sit and tell yourself all day long, this is the greatest thing ever. But you could come away from that, look at it from somebody else's point of view, and think, in reality, is this as informative as I think?
Well, that's very important when you're drawing on intentions.
Yes.
So if it's your intention to grow your account, it depends on where you're looking to grow that account. So if you're looking to engage people with the information you're putting out, it's very important to gather that market research and not be naive in the process and assume everything you're doing is wonderful and amazing, because somebody else is going to interpret that very differently.
So really look at it from a third eye.
You have to understand your audience very well.
Yes, definitely. And with that, when you're making a fitness account, this is something I didn't quite get at the start, was all I'd post was me doing certain workouts in the gym and saying, try this great leg day, try this shoulder superset, which was great and helpful. But that was all I'd post. And it got to the point where I hit a brick and I was a bit confused as to what else I could post. I felt like I'd covered everything. And I thought, how do these accounts have hundreds of posts and they're still posting near enough every single day? What are they finding? There is such a broad spectrum of things you can post on an Instagram account. You can go down the motivational route and just keep posting motivational quotes and audios. You can go down the informative route, like you've said, and really spread knowledge, as long as you do have research and evidence and you're not spreading misinformation, which is important. You can go down the entertainment route and you can post funny videos. There's so much you can go down. This is in regards to a fitness account. With a regular account, or if this is in making a beauty account or a football account, it's different. But the categories are still the same.
Well, it's about having a niche and sticking to it in whatever capacity you're choosing.
And it's okay to change your mind at any point.
Yeah.
I've gone from constantly posting motivational reels to constantly posting mindset tips to constantly posting what I eat in the day. Now I just mix everything up.
Yeah.
So it's okay to not just stick to one thing. Post what you love, what you want to post.
As we've said a lot in other podcast episodes, the importance is that you're enjoying what you're doing.
Yes.
If you don't enjoy it, there's no way that you're going to stick to it.
Exactly. And if you feel like it's becoming a chore, then you need to step away and reevaluate what you're doing. And again, as we've constantly said, the reason why you're doing it. So yeah, that is the key message, is do what you love, post what you love, fuck what anybody else thinks. If you like it and you want to post it.
So long as it's not intentionally hurtful and
as long as it's not harmful and it's not spreading misinformation, and it's nothing that can come back to haunt you in the future, because remember, there is such thing as digital footprint, then go ahead and do everything else.
Yeah. So what would you say you found to be the most rewarding part?
Most rewarding is watching myself progress over time.
Yeah.
I have kind of said this, but watching myself progress, and not just in terms of the gym and my performance in the gym, but my skills with posting.
Yeah.
I was never somebody who deemed myself as overly creative. So when it came to posting, I didn't put much thought into it. Like I said, I just film my workouts and post them. It didn't require any editing or anything, which is great because it's very real. But at the same time, it's not overly engaging. And I don't blame people for just scrolling past, to be fair. And over time, I've learned really how to adapt what I love and how to then make it engaging with an audience.
Yeah.
Use trending sounds and use all these fonts. And it sounds silly, but just the little things like editing captions really to perfectly fit with the audio spoken, and just really teach myself, I guess, how to do that.
Absolutely.
I found that really rewarding. I also found finding a really nice community online. There are so many lovely people, mutuals I would say, that we always hype each other up on each other's posts. Nobody knows each other, and it's just so nice to connect with all these like-minded people. And it means that when these people who aren't like you, that you come across in daily life, whether they're from your school or your work or random strangers, and they critique you, it really doesn't affect you, because you know that there's so many people that are like you online.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of futile.
You find so much fulfillment in seeing the joy of other people and sharing the joy with other people, rather than tearing people down and being this internet troll.
Yeah.
It's just sitting there in the dark.
It's true. Would you agree with me on the rewarding thing? Is there anything else that you found really rewarding with your account?
I would say the same thing in terms of the constructive criticism is what I like to call it, because I see it as something that really benefits me. I've definitely found it rewarding to connect with other people and to hear about some really remarkable stories of how people started. A lot of girls in particular I found have had eating disorders, and they've come a really long way, and it's been so inspiring to see, and so therefore reassuring that I'm on the right path too, in keeping consistent and motivated with my own journey. To feel as though I've impacted at least one person positively
that's all that matters. That's all it matters.
It's so rewarding.
You inspire one person, you're doing something right.
Exactly. So yes, I would agree with you.
Overall, this is your sign. If you're thinking about making an account or you're unsure, do it. This is your sign.
Give it a go, see how you feel.
Do stick it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because nothing's ever easy at first. Same as the gym. If you gave up within the first few weeks, you wouldn't be at the point you are now with the gym. So it's exactly the same.
Be mindful of what you might or might not expect, but ultimately it's something that you will learn on the journey. So try and embrace that in every capacity.
Yeah. But as always, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate the love and support.
It would mean the absolute world to us if you could like, follow and subscribe to our podcast.
You have been listening to
Gains and Gossip.